Hey everyone, my name is Porush and welcome back to this new episode of the Long Live Cinema Show. Today we have with us writer-director Arati Kadav, who is an emerging new voice in the world of Indian cinema and specifically the sci-fi genre. She has taken charge of showcasing the potential of the science fiction genre with her beautiful and thought-provoking stories. She has done short films like 55 kilometers per second, The Astronaut and His Parrot, which she did in collaboration with Apple. We talked extensively about her process of making her short film, The Astronaut and His Parrot. And we also discussed about her first feature film called Cargo, which is streaming on Netflix. And right now, she's gearing up for the release of her next feature film called Mrs., starring Sanya Malhotra. The teaser for Mrs. is already out. I'm sure you must have definitely checked out the teaser. In this conversation, we talked extensively about her process of storytelling, why she loves the science fiction genre, what all she expects from the Indian cinema, especially in terms of bringing more stories from the science fiction genre. We also talked about the different techniques and the different methodologies that a director has to adopt and adapt in order to complete a project. She was very kind to give us a deep dive into her own creative process. And once again, this is a great podcast for cinema lovers, cinephiles, and for anyone who wants to know what truly goes behind the scenes when it comes to making a film or a short film. You are going to love this conversation. Keep watching till the end. And without any further delay, sit back, relax, and let's start the show. First of all, I think I have to talk to you about Dune 2. Did
Yes.
you did you watch Dune 2? I am so sure
No,
you watched.
I haven't because I had every day I had something like from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yesterday also we were supposed to have this, but I had something. Today we had talking to you, and I'm like I already know a lot of the plot because I think everybody I followed everywhere has been talking about Dune too, so I exactly know plot wise what is happening, and I was like, oh my god, I don't want to know more before I see it, but I'm going to watch it, maybe not today but tomorrow. First thing I'm going to watch it. Like, I
Absolutely.
usually like going to theaters early morning, like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and like the very few people, and then you're focusing, and I usually go alone also, so I watch a film like that fully immersed. So I'm trying to find that morning to myself, especially film like Dune, which requires that kind of full attention. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Um,
I'm sure you must be going to an IMAX because I mean,
yes. And I'm a huge fan of the cinema. I'm a huge fan of the story. I remember that was the first film I saw. Dune 1 was the first film I saw post pandemic. And I'd seen it in IMAX. And during pandemic, we were watching so many of those, TV kind of stuff that I was like, oh my God, I had forgotten what cinema is like, what design is like, right from design of smaller element to the design of characters. The amount of thought that was going into everything was amazing. And I've heard Dune 2, I mean, from everyone, that it's like even superseded Dune 1, so it's
I mean,
amazing.
I can, so sorry. I can vouch for that because I have watched Dune 2 twice in IMAX and it only gets better. It only
Wow.
gets better. And you absolutely pointed it out so well that the amount of attention to detail in
Hmm.
this particular film is phenomenal. I mean, मतलब अगर मैं बहुत ही सिंपल भाषा में बताऊं आपको कि अगर एक कैरेक्टर, आई वोंट रिवील एनीथिंग, ट्रस्ट मी, एक कैरेक्टर दूसरे कैरेक्टर के पास जा रहा है दरवाज़ा
Hmm.
खोल के,
Hmm.
even that freaking door has so much of work done. मतलब उसमें कोई डिज़ाइन बना है, उसका कलर ऐसा है, it has a presence of its own. That door has a presence of its own. So there is
Wow.
so much detail, so much of I mean, of course, Hans Zimmer is at the top of his game, but so is the sound designer, so is the production designer, so is the costume designer. They are
Nice.
all doing all at the top of their game. And I just found out that Mark Mangini, the guy who did the sound design for Mad Max Fury Road, is the guy who
Oh,
has done sound design for Dune 1 and Dune 2. So he's the guy
wow.
who designed the ornithopter ka sound from scratch.
Wow.
So I was like, of course, and I'm a huge fan of Mad Max Fury Road for what it is.
Yes, I am also. It's like, yeah, one of the
Yeah,
best, yeah, films. Yeah.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what about the Oscar nominees now that we are getting those films in India? So did you catch up on any of them?
I quite like that Anatomy of Fall a lot. Like,
Okay, okay.
I was very moved by it, and about the, yeah, it surprised me in the sense that I had known about the film, but when I saw it, it's like a plot. But how do you go into details of human psychology? Like, thriller is like, of course, your this thing, a larger plot that you're following, but there's so much to it. And it was entering places and saying things that I hadn't even read in any literature or seen in films. So that was nice, that a film can talk about everyday thing but actually also still take you to new places. And
Yes.
that's what I quite liked about it.
Yeah.
So that really stood out for me. And yeah, like, because that's the most recent film I saw. So yeah, और
You
कौन सा है? Yeah.
आपने like American Fiction is now out on Prime.
ओह ओके, मैंने नहीं कैचअप किया एक्चुअली, मेरे बहुत राइटिंग वगैरह डेडलाइंस भी चालू थे. सो
अच्छा.
बट आई शुड टेक द लिस्ट एंड आई शुड स्टार्ट वाचिंग वन एवरी डे. लाइक
Yeah, so
या.
American Fiction is out on Prime Video because it's
हम्म.
an MGM film, and
हम्म.
Poor Things is out on Apple. You can buy it, and you can also buy it on Google and BMS. So
ओके
that is
ओके.
available. Poor
डन.
Things, Poor Things मैंने देखी. Poor Things kind of reminded me of one of my favorite filmmakers' work, who's Lars von Trier, and
ओह
that film reminded me of Breaking the Waves and Dancer in the Dark. And
वाओ.
I mean, that's just my thinking, but
यस.
the kind of stuff Yorgos has done is
यस.
like मैं बता I won't talk about it, otherwise I might end up spoiling it. But
यस.
you should please watch these two films. American Fiction
डन
मुझे
डन.
अभी देखनी है.
हम्म.
Right. So
हम्म.
I want to now ask you, and I think this is a great way to start the conversation, that what was the very first time when you fell in love with the world of cinema? Because I feel there is always this point in everyone's life where there
हम्म.
is one film or that one documentary or a story in any form that just opens your brain or just breaks your brain so much that you become inclined to take a deep dive, and then you are like, अरे यार ये क्या
या.
है, and this is beautiful. So what was that film?
Hmm. So for me, I actually grew up in middle class Nagpur, and very studious, very that kind of environment where, like, and I used to come first, like, so very, I was pretty studious. So of course for me, Bollywood films was a escape medium, and I was very fascinated by that. But I remember somewhere when I was very young, it was my cousin brother who actually narrated. Before I saw it, he said there's a film called Matrix करके, वो देख करके. एंड उसने मतलब आई थिंक 4 घंटे मुझे मैट्रिक्स नरेट किया. इतना मतलब आई एम लाइक द इज द वर्स्ट वे टू वॉच योर फेवरेट फिल्म इज बाय बीइंग नरेटेड बाय लाइक लिटरली लाइक अ 12-year-old बॉय हु नरेटेड सब कुछ, वाइट रैबिट से लेकर सब कुछ डिटेल में नरेट किया. वो बोला कि ऐसी चीज मतलब तूने लाइफ में देखी नहीं होगी. And I was like ठीक है, but when I actually got my hands on it, and I don't even know because I definitely didn't see it on theaters. I don't know how I saw it. I don't remember. I was too young to remember what was the source because वो pirate कहाँ से क्या हुआ, I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw when I saw that film, I was so fascinated. I was like, can films do that? Can films create new worlds and also make you question your reality in a way that, I used to really, I was too young, and and I think that was that age and that phase where I saw Matrix, and immediately later I saw Jurassic Park had also come around that time, and I was too young, but I remember Jurassic Park I saw in Hindi dubbed in a village, which is my mom's maternal village, and we watched. I with my mom and all our cousins, and we were walking back, and it was raining, and I was really thinking a dinosaur would come. But like just what these films did to me, which no other films had done before, was just transported me to a very different world. It extended my own world with their imagination. The imagination of those writers was making my world richer in a way that had never happened before. So I think, yeah, I would call these two films like my top two favorite films because they were the starting point. And at that point filmmaking, यार मतलब हम लोग को कभी लगेगा कि हम फिल्म बना पाएंगे, मतलब वो from that to this. But from that point my story writing changed a lot. I used to
Yeah.
write a lot of short stories, so they influenced that a lot. So I really embraced mythology. Then I was reading Amachitra Katha and all that. But from these films, I have thought that for me, writing was actually a lot of writing became daydreaming and creating new worlds and having the new rules of the worlds. So that was my starting point. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's
Yeah.
great. When you were talking about, watching Jurassic Park in Hindi, it reminded me of my time when I watched. So I'm that guy जिसने हैरी पॉटर और रहस्यमयी तहखाना देखी है. जिसने पारस पत्थर देखी है. और वो भी ऐसा है कि स्कूल में सब इतनी बातें करते थे ना कि ओहो
हाँ,
हैरी पॉटर को चो चैंग ने किस कर लिया. ओ माय गॉड, दैट बिकेम, आई डोंट नो व्हाई, दैट बिकेम लाइक अ बिग थिंग. बट
yeah,
यू वोंट बिलीव दैट आई उसके बाद मैंने फिर सीधा लास्ट पार्ट देखा है, बिकॉज आई वांटेड टू नो हाउ दिस वोल्डेमॉर्ट guy will die.
yeah.
Because there is such a big villain in that. But yeah, uh, I want to now touch upon your filmography, and I want to talk to you about The Astronaut and His Parrot, which is a wonderful short film, guys. If you haven't checked out, please watch it. It's available for free on YouTube. You can definitely check it out. And there is one particular aspect about that film about which I wanted to ask you. How did you guys manage the lighting of that film, especially in those scenes where he is outer space? Because
Yeah.
आप कैसे मैनेज कर रहे हो वो, और आप, एज प्लीज करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, बट आपने शायद एक ऑफ कोर्स एक क्लोज एनवायरनमेंट में ही, स्टूडियो में ही
Hmm.
शूट किया है. बट वो
Hmm.
लाइट को कंटिन्यूसली आप कैसे मूव कर रहे हो कि लगे कि नहीं भाई ये बंदा स्पेस में ही है, और वो रिफ्लेक्शन भी आ रहा है, इधर भी है. सो हाउ डिड यू डू दैट?
हाँ, तो उसका फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल फुल क्रेडिट गोज टू माय सिनेमेटोग्राफर कुलदीप, क्योंकि हम लोग का था कि हाँ वी वर मेकिंग दिस लो बजट लाइक एज लो एज पॉसिबल. तो उसने बस एक लाइट मंगाई थी, और वो जो लाइट है वो मैं आपको लास्ट में बताऊंगी.
ओके.
पर उसने जब एक लाइट जो मंगाई तो मैंने उसको बोला यार कुलदीप एक लाइट तो बहुत कम मंगा रहा है, मेरे को बहुत टेंशन हो रहा है. तो मैंने पीछे से 4 लाइट्स और मंगा के रखी, 2 लाइटमैन के साथ, ऐसे कि तू यूज मत कर पर मेरे कॉन्फिडेंस के लिए कि एक लाइट से कैसे होगा. But eventually we shot with that one light that he got, and that one light was actually a disco light. So he was programming the disco light, making it move and do things, and that was the genius of Kuldeep Mamania who shot it. And of course there were other things also we did, which Zenish Mehta, my VFX supervisor, suggested कि हमने एक एलईडी टीवी, वो भी मतलब हमको हमने नहीं अरेंज किया, पता चला कि बाजू में एलईडी टीवी किसी का है. तो एलईडी टीवी लेके आए और उसमें हमने मून रखा था. तो जो हेलमेट में मून का रिफ्लेक्शन आ रहा है वो एक्चुअल में वो टीवी के मून का रिफ्लेक्शन है. तो हमने इतना बड़ा, एक से इतना बड़ा मून का रिफ्लेक्शन वो हेलमेट में आ रहा था, और वो लाइट मूव हो रही थी. So as he was falling, and as you rightly said that it was a closed environment, it was a blacked out environment. So we had taken a very huge studio, because small studio में वो नहीं आता. So we needed that little bit of that. I think he needed some depth or something from, like, this was a requirement that came from the tech team. So we had blacked out. We had put kala kapda black paper throughout, and whole thing was blacked out. And that there was this one disco light. एंड मैंने जो 2-3 लाइट बढ़ाई थी वो तो कभी ऑन भी नहीं हुई, बिकॉज वो मेरा ही टेंशन था कि मुझे लगा था कि कैसे होगा, विल डिस्को लाइट हैव द स्ट्रेंथ, ऑल्सो बिकॉज वी वर शूटिंग इट इन आईफोन. आई वाज वेरी वंडरिंग दैट इफ वी विल बी एबल टू कैच the strength of that light, like, but it worked well. Yeah. So बहुत जुगाड़, but like intelligent जुगाड़, thanks to Kuldeep. Yeah.
नहीं नहीं नहीं, एंड वो दिख रहा है साफ स्क्रीन पर.
Hmm.
एंड
Hmm.
लाइक यू जस्ट मेंशन दैट यू वर शूटिंग विद आईफोन, सो दिस वाज अ कोलैबोरेशन विद एप्पल. सो हाउ डिड दिस
Hmm.
collaboration happen? How
Yeah.
did you, like, how did you approach Apple, or was there any project like they were looking for filmmakers and they came to you ki we want to collaborate?
No, so this was during the, I think, middle of pandemic, when I think they had approached Smriti Kiran, Mami, who was
Yeah.
Mami director that time, and they were looking for filmmakers who would be interested in exploring shooting something with iPhone. So that time I was told that, like, that was a very strange phase. I was we had I had made Cargo then. Cargo was self produced, and after that I was making a short film called 55 kilometer per second, which was like, which we were shooting remotely, so over Zoom. And the friend's roommate, they were shooting it, and we they were shooting on phone. So I told them मैं तो already iPhone से shoot कर रही हूँ, like, but they said no, they want to do it properly. बट उस समय हम लोग जब शूट कर रहे थे, लाइक मेरा वी वो आई वाज वेरी लो ऑन फंड्स बिकॉज कार्गो वाजंट सोल्ड बाय देन, एंड बहुत पैसा वी हैड टेकन, एंड आई रिमेंबर आई हैड अ मैकबुक एयर एट दैट टाइम, एंड मेरे फोन में कुछ पानी गिर गया था, हाफ ऑफ माय फोन वाज पैरालाइज्ड, इट वाज नॉट वर्किंग एट ऑल, एंड आई वाज लाइक फीलिंग टू प्राउड टू बाय अनदर फोन, आई वाज लाइक कि नहीं, जब तक कि मेरा फिल्म नहीं बिके, सो रैंडम रूल्स वी पुट ऑन योरसेल्फ कि जब तक कि मेरा फिल्म नहीं बिकेगा मैं फोन नहीं बदलूंगी, मैं भले ही वॉइस नोट भेजूंगी या कॉपी पेस्ट करके आधा वाला यूज करूंगी। एंड मैकबुक प्रो में मैं एडिट कर रही थी, तो दैट वाज आल्सो अ चैलेंज बिकॉज एवरी 20 minutes आई हैड टू शट इट डाउन बिकॉज इट वाज हीटिंग अप सो मच. So even if I was editing a short film, and
Yeah.
they said that they can help you with a phone, and if you make the short film, so वो phone के लिए ऐसा कि ठीक है तुम phone मिल जाएगा. And that's all they helped us, like it was, and I think they did that to a lot of other filmmakers as well. And I felt like very grateful to Smriti, I felt very grateful to Apple, and I really felt that this democratic tools are required. When I was, because I was in that phase where I was getting very angry कि कार्गो बिक नहीं रही है या ढंग से हो नहीं रहा है, साउथ बाय साउथ वेस्ट भी जाके अब और क्या करे भाई, like used to feel कि what more can we do that people pay attention to our films, so, and then I said कि let's just, what if we decrease the cost of making the film to an extent that we can still make it and find some creative outlet and just be at it. Because प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं होता कि आप एक महंगी फिल्म बनाते, प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप ये प्रोफेशन आपने चूज किया है तो आपको नेक्स्ट बनाना है. सो अगर आपकी एक नहीं बिकती तो मतलब ये आप सेकंड कैसे पिकअप करोगे, लाइक हाउ डू यू पिकअप पीसेस टू मेक योर नेक्स्ट फिल्म. So my thing was, so with that energy we just got in, and then first I wanted to make something very simple and nice, and then I had a friend Zen who said ki, no, don't like just make something nice, like don't think like that ki, कि चल phone मतलब you feel कि ऐसे ही कुछ shoot कर दे. Then he said no, just think of, dig up your stories, maybe you'll feel like making something. And then I felt like कि ये film को हम animation बनाने वाले थे, ठीक से नहीं बनी तो ठीक है चलो हमने कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट किया, so that's how Astronaut and Parrot came through. So as such that was like the only help from Apple that they uh, so if anybody wants to make a pure iPhone film, I think they do give phones for three phones for shooting, so I think they can, one can approach them for that. They're very supportive that way to young filmmakers, and they also acquaint you with the Apple ecosystem, like of how to edit or whatever, wo jo anyways we know because we all anyways edit on Mac
Yeah.
machines. Yeah.
Great,
So
great, awesome.
yeah.
And अभी आपने कार्गो की बात करी, and since we are talking about the sci-fi genre, so I always feel that world building is one of the most important aspects of the genre. And speaking about cargo, I want to ask you now कि how did you guys end up designing that spaceship? Because again, it is the most important कैरेक्टर ऑफ दैट स्टोरी. बिकॉज
Yes.
अगर वो स्पेसशिप नहीं है तो आपकी स्टोरी की पूरी वर्किंग नहीं है. बिकॉज
Yeah.
जो आपने कॉन्सेप्ट लिया है, दैट कॉन्सेप्ट is getting executed because of the spaceship. That's what
Yeah.
I think. So how did
Yeah.
you guys make that spaceship? Because, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I want to say something कि जब कार्गो में वो जो स्पेसशिप का सीन है, when he it's coming from the left side of the frame, आई रियली होप्ड कि यार मैं ये थिएटर में क्यों नहीं देख रहा हूँ. वाई एम आई नॉट वॉचिंग दिस ऑन द बिगेस्ट स्क्रीन पॉसिबल. मेरे पास सिर्फ एक 40 इंच का टीवी है, मुझे बड़े आई वॉन्ट टू वॉच इट ऑन द बिगेस्ट स्क्रीन. सो या, आई जस्ट वॉन्टेड टू नो हाउ डिड यू गाइज एग्जीक्यूट मेकिंग दैट स्पेसशिप.
You said that, and Cargo actually as a film is also a better experience on theater because we optimized it and we made it for a theater with the sound design, the details. So when it was coming on TV, my sound design was only calling me कि यार कैसे हमने क्यों नहीं किया, हमने scale मतलब he was like कि फिर पता चलता टीवी में. I mean, we were also young, new, we didn't know much कि टीवी के लिए अलग साउंड डिजाइन होता है वो. So things like that were there, and I know that if you watch it in the glory that we tuned the film to, because हम लोग ने साउंड डिजाइन रूम में हमने डॉल्बी वो जो उसमें पूरा हमने अपना परफेक्ट किया, एंड देन हम दिखा टीवी में रहे, विच इज लाइक आई थिंक विच आई हैव लर्नड लाइक फ्रॉम सेकंड फिल्म ऑलवर्स कि मैं छोटे से छोटे में देखती हूँ कि शुड इट वो will the sound design work in small, like, big, so it will work, but can I hear every sound, every details? Because I do work very hard on sound design with my sound designers, and I also I've been blessed with very good sound designers all this while. So वो फिर उनका सुनाई नहीं देता, तो you feel very bad about it, like अरे ये तो था यहाँ पे, sound सुनाई क्यों नहीं रहा? So that's an aside thing, but so spaceship design, you talking about the inside, right, or the outside? Don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Just like overall, how did
हाँ.
you approach it? Yeah.
नहीं, मेरे लिए था कि द होल स्पेसशिप केम आइडिया स्पेसशिप केम फ्रॉम प्रहस्ता's backstory also, that something he's dealing with a clunky machine, like, an old machine. He's been up there for a very long time, hundreds of years, and he's in a rut of a job. So it's like how your new office looks very shiny when you're this, but over a period of time you will see the corners have eroded and all that.
Right.
So I wanted that. I didn't want it to be shiny, because the first thing when you tell spaceship to anyone, they'll feel, because they'll see very sterile and very clean environment. I said ये इसमें यही साफ कर रहा होगा बेचारा, तो इतना क्लीन भी नहीं होगा, मे बी उसकी चीजें होंगी, उसका पर्सनलाइज कुछ होगा उसके रूम में. एंड ऑल्सो हाँ, ही इज अ स्टिकलर फॉर डिसिप्लिन, तो एकदम ही मेसी भी नहीं होगा, साफ रहेगा. सो वी हैड दैट इन माइंड. आई वॉज वेरी कीन टू मेक इट कलरफुल, लाइक, सो मेरे माइंड में बहुत था. और हम लोग का, मैं ऐसे ब्लू के ना इतने पिक्चर्स वैसे थे कि ये ब्लू चाहिए, वो ब्लू चाहिए. सो थिंग्स लाइक दैट वी, बिकॉज सारे स्पेशल हमने देखे थे, सारे वाइट ही वाइट है, लाइक राइट फ्रॉम मून फिल्म से लेकर हर फिल्म में. लाइक कि ना एक कलर डालते हैं, एक कलर डालते हैं, एंड हैव द कलर मर्ज विद द यूनिफॉर्म ऑफ दैट गाय. मतलब मेरा आइडिया था कि he's also become one with the environment, and when the girl comes in, she's a absolutely opposite color, like, color wheel का एकदम opposite color में वो आ रही है, like, so that was the idea. I have a love for retro clunkiness, like,
Okay.
that's my inherent love, because I also thought that जब ये 100 years पहले बनी होगी, तब that would have been the dominant technology. I like the tactile behavior of things, so that was my other idea कि जितने knobs रहे, जितने वो रहे, उतना better है. जो machines भी है, जैसे memory wipe machine है, वो सब है, वो भी उस era के designs है, so sphericals and, वैसे types. So that was the main idea behind it, like behind designing it. And I think I had carried this film with me just before the shoot. I had a good fortune of going to Japan for a week. So when you're carrying a film, and I think I recommend that to everyone, that, carry a film and travel to some country whose culture is sort of shocking or sort of, stimulating to you. So मैं जापान में गई थी, तो वहां पे मैं देख रही थी कि इमिग्रेशन सब जगह इट्स लाइक दिस, एंड दे हैव वेरी किडिश कार्टून्स, लाइक, जहाँ पे हैंड स्कैन है ना, वहाँ पे भी ऐसे हाथ ऐसे 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 हो रहा है. जहाँ पे उनके मेट्रो में, इफ यू चेक, लाइक, their infotainments are very kiddish, very cute cartoons. So I thought, why not have that? Like, so we had put some cartoons here and there. The other things that informed us were the lack of budget. Like, like we couldn't have screens all the four sides, because then 100% of shots will be VFX heavy. So idea was कि सिर्फ दो साइड में VFX स्क्रीन्स रखते हैं, सो दैट ये एंगल और ये एंगल में ही, ऑफ कोर्स वी नीड विजुअल एंड VFX थिंग्स एंड ऑल दैट, बट ये एंगल में ही आपको VFX करना पड़े, ये एंगल में VFX नहीं किया तो चलेगा, सो वो उस हिसाब से भी हमने प्लान किया था काफ़ी. इनफैक्ट द पर्सन हु डिड आवर VFX also made lot of printouts of screens, so we used to change the screens while shooting. So even if it's not shooting on camera, like from one shot to other shot, it looks changed, but it's printout, it's not a screen. So things like that also we did, and मुझे तो बहुत टेंशन होता था एक्चुअली स्पेसशिप का. मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि लो बजट में स्पेसशिप बनाना should not fall like pack of cards, like it should not look like a joke, it should not
Yeah.
look like, कि ये तो समर मुझे एक्चुअली किसी बहुत बड़े राइटर डायरेक्टर ने जब टाइम मशीन देखी थी, आई मेड अ फिल्म विच आई
Yeah.
रियली लव इट स्टिल. उसका जो फील मुझे बहुत प्यारा लगता है, लाइक स्पेशली द प्रोडक्शन डिजाइन. उसने बोला था, अरे आप तो समर प्रोजेक्ट्स बना रहे हैं. तो मुझे टेंशन हुआ था कि कोई कार्गो को ना बोले कि समर प्रोजेक्ट है करके, बट बिकॉज इट वॉज नॉट, एंड वी वर वर्किंग लाइक, the amount of precision that goes in getting it right was insane. But, like,
Yeah.
people don't realize it because they haven't attempted it. Maybe once they'll attempt it, they'll know how tough it is to get a make believe world feel real, like. So तो मुझे वो उस चीज का बहुत ज्यादा टेंशन होता था. आई यूज्ड टू फस ओवर इट अ लॉट. But I think Mayur Sharma as a production designer was a very good choice. Like he's a veteran and he was a very calm and very nice. So, so he knew what all suggestions of mine to filter out, what all to take in. And I think that जो trolley में जो वो आते हैं, the
Right.
idea that it is like a closer to a rail. So things like that. So आई थिंक ही गॉट इट, मतलब वो होता है ना कि वंस यू गेट द सेंट्रल आइडिया कि सब चीज शुड कन्वर्ज टुवर्ड्स द सेंट्रल आइडिया कि थोड़ा सा रेट्रो है बट व्हील्स है, क्लंग्स, बटन्स है, सो ही गॉट दैट वेरी वेल. सो
Yeah.
आई थिंक दैट
And
वर्क.
as an audience I can confirm कि
या
I matlab it looked like a real spaceship, as real as it can look. So kudos to your entire team and thank you so much for cargo.
थैंक
But coming to your very, like, the latest project that you're working on,
यू.
so right now, you have taken charge of a project that was originally executed a few years ago, and you are now reprising it. You are reprising the same source material with a new flavor of your creative
या
abilities. So
या
I would love to know that when such projects are offered to any directors, not just you but any directors, what should be the primary responsibility of that person in terms of nurturing the project? What is it that you have to make sure, uh, like right now you are recreating the source material with your spin, so how
या
is your approach towards this project? What is it that you are making sure ki nahi yaar, this is something that I have to get right?
Yeah, I think for me, for the longest time I know that I had only directed what I had written. So for the first time something landed on my lap that was something that was completely someone else's vision. But when I had seen the film and I had seen the original film, I felt that it was talking about everything that I held very dear. It was talking about people I hold very dear. It's like about my talking about what my mother go through. And I also always used to say that we always tend to, we don't realize, even as women we reduce our mothers to just functions, like mummy khana do mummy. So I used to feel that we never see them as a whole person. So when I had seen the film, I think what I did was that once I saw the film, I just kept it aside, and I decided to recreate that sentiment. Of course, we had the screenplay also, but even in the screenplay, what is the I wanted to find my own soul in it, and the way to do it was that actually I was also very fortunate that Sanya was part of the film, even when before I was signed in, she was already part of the film. So we actually spoke to a lot of women, and it kind of gave us a starting point. Even though it looked like that film is a starting point, we took a lot from these other women that we spoke firsthand. And you won't believe, we spoke to women in Bangalore, we spoke to women in like a lot of tier वन सिटी. सो यू से कि अरे ये मिडिल इंडिया का प्रॉब्लम है, एक्चुअली नहीं,
Nahi.
ये पूरे इंडिया का प्रॉब्लम है. वी डोंट रियलाइज इट, पीपल डोंट टॉक अबाउट इट, इट्स सो मच विद इन क्लोज डोर्स, no one talks about it. And then I also dug out, like I wanted to give the film a slightly different energy. So I was digging out my own references, because Great Indian Kitchen original is also very form centric, and it has this repetition pattern, this that, and I was thinking, what is my form as a directorial interpretation, what I will bring. So I wanted to bring in, I also felt that original was like a CCTV camera on the lives of these people. So you just observe, and I thought, why what if I enter from this girl's POV, and and keep it this, like here or here, like rather than this. And can I make it more emotional that way, can I make it more interesting. I also saw a lot of these, Iranian films for this. Like, मुझे वो about Ellie or Nadir and Simin, उनका जो वो होता है ना कि every character is right. But the problem is the circumstances. So this is the brief I was also giving to, just a Kawaljeet Singh who is playing father-in-law. So my brief to him was not that you're a bad person. My brief was like, you're the biggest victim. At 65, 70, how will you change your food habits? How will you change your way of living? How can you change anything? Like you don't know. You don't know better. You've never entered that room, and now you're people so so I was bringing that, and in fact, during shoot, the Nishant, who is playing Sanya's husband, so many times I would say this, he would say, "Nahi, isme I'm looking intentionally bad. I'm not bad." my POV is correct, like, so it was very interesting. We almost approached it like a theater while we were working towards it. So I quite liked it that way. Yeah. So yeah, it was like, I think when you are given a material that's not your own, you have to find, different tricks or something to make it your own in a way, and just recreate it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this might just be me over analyzing, but we are talking about your film while you are sitting near your kitchen. Anyways.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
uh,
Mhm.
in general, I wanted to know, as a director, how do you manage between ensuring full creative control of the script, of the material, and also giving the cast and crew the room to make suggestions for improving the treatment of the story? Because debut filmmakers
Yeah.
might face, I'm not saying they indeed face, but they might come across this dilemma कि फिल्म मेकिंग वैसे तो एक कोलैबोरेटिव प्रोसेस है, बट सिंस आई एम द डायरेक्टर, आई शुड ऑल्सो बी, यू नो अल्टीमेटली इंश्योर करना है कि कहीं ना कहीं मेरा कंट्रोल बना रहे. सो हाउ डू यू
Right.
क्रिएट दैट बैलेंस?
ये आप जो बोल रहे हो ना, it just doesn't happen so much with your crew and cast, but we are now living in a world there is a lot of layers above you, like this production layer, there's this creative layer, there's this platform layer,
Yeah.
and that is like a tougher layer to navigate, I personally feel, than your own cast and crew. I think one thing that really helps me is to have very strong one-on-one relationship with cast and crew even before I get on shoot. That I feel is helps me even navigate the external forces, because I know that we are one unit. At least मैं मेरा crew or cast, हाँ, sometimes I have worked with cast who have been like, push who have been pushing their thing, but you have to be very polite and push your thing, that you have to do. But I still feel your cast and crew are lesser challenge than the challenge of platform and the challenge of, if you have a very of your producers who have a POV. Navigating that becomes tough because there's a power structure in your
Right.
cast and crew. Still there's an understanding that you're the director, but when someone says ki, oh, if a platform comes and says ki hamara data mining ne bola aise or वैसे, so you have to figure out how do you navigate that. That's a tougher thing to navigate. But I think what has helped me, which I have done because I've made a lot of short films. I've made around 9 short films, and what I've learned through that is like have very strong one-on-one meetings with your cast and crew before you're on the shoot or before even your proper pre-prod starts, and tell them everything. And there's something called as, I think wo GDT ne bola tha, I think I was listening to his thing, which I thought was a, which we do and I should do more, is that before he even goes and approaches his team heads, he has something called as his submarine team, which could be him and his assistants or to his very common collaborators or whatever. यू फिगर आउट, लाइक ऐसा नहीं है कि आप म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर को मिल रहे हो और साथ में बोल रहे चल सोचते हैं क्या करना है. आपको ऑलरेडी मतलब आइडिया होना चाहिए. If you go with that too much openness, unfortunately, like there are some music directors who will give you direction, but they do look for some guidance from you. So एक महीने का प्री प्लॉट ना अकेले ही करना चाहिए. लाइक जैसे मैं शॉर्ट ब्रेकडाउन अपने सिनेमेटोग्राफर के साथ करती हूँ, मैं ऐसा एक्टिंग करती हूँ कि मैं उसके साथ पहली बार कर रही हूँ, पर एक्चुअली मैं वो सीन्स 5 सीन्स घर से करके आती हूँ, मतलब. सो इवन इफ सो आई से कि आई एम थिंकिंग लाइक दैट, एंड बिकॉज उस समय आप स्पॉन्टेनियसली सी, इट्स अ थिंकिंग टेक्स टाइम. बट द वर्ल्ड वी हैव लाइक एग्जैक्ट, वी हैव जस्ट रोमांटिसाइज दिस कि अरे गो टू द सेट, अब मुझे आइडिया है. वो नहीं होता, मतलब वो आएगा तो वो वही आएगा जो 4 लोगों को भी आया है. If you are like thinking of various ideas and you're ruling out, that you can do in the peace of your house, peace of your mind, comfort of your very regular collaborators or whatever, and then when you're meeting your team heads, you're sort of little bit more prepared. So I also, even to my sound design and cargo, I had given a like a 2-3 page of very detailed document. The other day I was reading it and I was like, यार हम कितने innocent थे, इतना प्यार से लिख के देते थे, you know. So you have to feed them in, and that really helps because once they see, this is the first thing now, once the first impression, last impression with them, once they know that you're coming from a place where they feel you know what you're talking about, they will listen to you more. And same with cast, but cast and all is a little complicated because it's such a human, like some actors are like stars and sometimes you have to find a way to navigate that. So that is a very tricky thing. Like sometimes the actors will not give you retakes. They'll say, I mean, like, that didn't happen with me. I'm very lucky. I've worked with Sanya and Vikrant, who are like खुद बोलते हैं कि नहीं और ले लेते हैं और ले लेते हैं, like, you know. But there are times we have I've worked with actors who are like नहीं चाहिए, नहीं करते हैं, हो तो गया, आपको क्यों चाहिए, मुझे तो लगता है मिल गया, you know. So things like that, so that you have to navigate उस समय.
Yeah.
I had a sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I had a like I remember one person who was just not giving me in one of the films that I recently did, who was actually getting angry and who would say, he would say, "Madam, आपका तरीका, आप बॉक्स में बंद करें एक्टर को." But I would be like, "यार, क्या करें?" Like, you know, it'd be shouting and this. You have to keep cool because you cannot fight with your actors. I think then you have to become like very cool and you have to figure out that ऐसे कि okay जो करना आप करो, पर आप एक मेरा वाला टेक दे दो, चार आपके वाले टेक्स दे दो, एक मेरा वाला टेक दे दो. मतलब you have to, if they become like kids, how do you talk to kids, like how do you get what you want from them. So that's
Right.
another thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
reminds me of my recent conversation with a Telugu film director. His name is
Ah,
Shripal Shrama. He
yeah.
recently made a film which is a Telugu American film.
Hmm.
Like most of his actors are from America, and he is
Hmm.
in America, but his protagonist is a Telugu actor. And he
Hmm.
told me कि जब मैं करता था तो मेरे को भी यही बोलते थे कि अरे बट why do you have to take a retake? I think it's fine. ये कर लेते. So he was like, okay, let's do one more. So he used to do two things. One from his own POV and the other one from the actor's POV. But edit
Yeah.
में जाके अपना ही उठाना है. So
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली वो लोगों को
हाँ,
समझता नहीं है कि शूट 1 महीना, एडिट 6 महीना है, तो डायरेक्टर वो मटेरियल के साथ बहुत लंबा रहेगा. आई हैव इवन हैड चैलेंजेस वेयर माय सिनेमेटोग्राफर्स हैव रिफ्यूज्ड टेकिंग शॉट्स की, यू गॉट द सीन, ये शॉट की क्या जरूरत है. आई लाइक भाई मैं एडिट में बैठी रहूंगी, मैं ढूंढती रहूंगी वो शॉट. मतलब they have to realize that, even see, it's even if you feel that shooting is the most important part, but post production is a very important leg, equally important leg. And shooting is an input to that leg. They have to realize that they don't it is not, you can't take final decisions there, even if you feel. I think more films you make, more you realize that shooting is not the final stage. When I was younger, I used to exactly take ये shot. बाद में जब फीचर फिल्म बनाते हैं, यू रियलाइज कि समटाइम्स ये फिल्म 2.5 घंटे की बन गई है, आपको 2 घंटे की बनानी है.
right,
So if you're taking such itna precise, sometimes you have to have some extra shots to glue things. So that's what also experience you bring sometimes, which sometimes your cinematographer will not have or your chief AD will not have. So you're like, you have to just say कि नहीं यार, जरूरत पड़ सकती है. Like, you don't understand that.
right.
So yeah.
Right. Recently, I was watching some of the interviews of Charlotte Wells, who made After Sun. So,
Hmm.
and my mind was totally blown because she said that we shot for like almost 1.5 months, but then we edited for 7 months. I'm like, 7 months? Okay, so 7 months later, we got what we got. So,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
yeah, this is exactly what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How is your relationship with technology, and how do you use technology in your creative life? And have you also started tried using some AI tools for
Yeah.
your creative purposes?
I have a very comfortable relationship with technology because I was trained as a software engineer.
Yeah.
So I've also done BTech and masters. So I've done 6 years of engineering before I did filmmaking. So so I, in fact, like in 2004 2005, when I was doing my masters, we were doing neural networks, we were doing all this AI thing that is popular now, but we were creating tools for that, face recognition. So pictures of me smiling, sad, and the AI telling whether I'm happy or sad, or things like object recognition. So all those things we were doing it. The text editors and all, we were playing with all that. So I'm in general comfortable with it, as such. Technology, I'm never intimidated, but also I'm not super enamored. Like मतलब मुझे कुछ भी एकदम एकदम वो भी नहीं लगता और वो भी नहीं. I have been talking to a lot of people. In fact, recently I'd gone to some
Yeah.
film festival where I felt so many young people who were saying कि we have this concept, we've used Mid Journey to create images. So I was thinking कि मैं भी Mid Journey से थोड़ा images create करना शुरू करती हूँ life में. But I have used Chat GPT on and off. especially for my grammar corrections, because my grammar is like very bad. So earlier I used to spend hours and hours fixing my grammar over my synopsis. Now I just send it to ChatGPT and say, "Ki, please correct grammar and give me," and keeping the thing intact, because I once tried to play with it to ask it, rewrite it in its own language, but I was not feeling ownership of it.
Yeah.
सो आई कांट चेंज द लैंग्वेज, तो वो मुझे मेरी लैंग्वेज भले ही बकवास है पर मुझे मेरी अच्छी लगती है, मुझे बस ग्रामर ठीक करके दे दो उतना. बट आई वांट टू कीप एक्सप्लोरिंग. आई रिमेंबर वी वर struggling with name of one of the films, and we were asking chat gpt and it was giving us interesting suggestions. I thought it was fun, like as such, like so I have that. Yeah, so for now my engagement is less as such. But having said that, like I've also explored yeah, unreal engines and all that, especially because I want to make films in space or different kind of planets, and what's the best way to do it. But I still feel like even if we are showing the film in 2D, uh, if we shoot that something that is 3D, there's some visceral quality to it. I feel like वो जो 2001 Space Odyssey की spaceship still feels more real to me. भले उसने 2 मीटर की बनाई थी और वो की थी, that still feels more amazing to me than any CGI created thing. So मुझे मतलब आई एम नॉट श्योर इफ इट्स अ मेंटल ब्लॉक. मतलब मुझे जेन्युइनली जो कैमरा में कैप्चर होता है वो ज़्यादा रियल फील होता है देन जो बाद में CGI में क्रिएट होता है. तो that's why I try to have a lot of effects on camera, which
Right.
we really tried in Astronaut and Parrot. As like green screen डालेंगे वो सच ब्लैक डालो, इवन छोटे छोटे लाइट्स लगाओ दूर दूर उसके लिए, स्टार्स के लिए, जो कैप्चर नहीं हुए वो अलग बात है. But we were trying to have everything, like the moon reflection should be on the glass, so we tried our best to do everything on camera. And then of course we will need CGI to enhance and all this, but minimal. Like I thought the 70% should be on camera and 30% you use using CGI is what I feel
Yeah.
as of now. And of course we will change, as
Yes.
technology progresses, our POV will change about it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is the one of the biggest reasons why Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, they get the recognition and the respect because they do mostly stuff on camera. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because last year I got the chance to watch Interstellar in IMAX. मैंने share भी किया था, so you also replied
Hmm.
to a message saying कि Christopher Nolan, you were sharing some thoughts about it.
Hmm.
So I want to ask you that is it like, is he your one of the favorite sci-fi filmmakers? What do you think about his filmography? And do you think like what he is doing is actually creating some revolution in the world of cinema?
Yeah, I think we always need these kind of filmmakers who create this high benchmarks, and that we all feel like aspiring to, and that is very required, because we all need to have some direction to look at. We all need that north star in our life, you know and I think if a filmmaker is really pushing and going all out, and it is so inspiring. It's like, and over generations we have seen, like जैसे बस्टर कीटन ने किया था अपने उस समय, या उसने मेट्रोपोलिस जिसने बनाया था, समवन जस्ट मतलब अनइमेजिनेबल सुपर ह्यूमन लेवल टाइप एफर्ट्स डाल के,
Fritz
यू
Lang.
नो हाँ फ्रिज लैक उस तरीके से कुछ फिल्म बनाते हैं, तो वी ऑल्सो फील लाइक यार मतलब हम कितना कम कर रहे हैं. Otherwise we tend to give over importance to very average work, that like sometimes we I also will make a simple film, I feel अरे कितना मेहनत किया, बट वो मेहनत मतलब वो आप सुबह उठे वो मेहनत नहीं है. मेहनत इसकी आप कितना न्यू चीज सोचे, कितना नया लाए, और कितना वो whenever you're making something you have to feel confident you'll make it, but there should be this nervousness also that you might fail. तो कितना आपने खुद का ग्रो किया, मतलब वो
Right.
गैप कितना कवर किया. So that is very important, and I think these guys do it. I'm sure even Nolan would be like, he knows his stuff, but I'm sure when he's doing it, it can go right, it can go wrong. मतलब he's taking that faith, and he's but still being mental about it and doing it in the perfect way possible. And that is very amazing, that madness that comes with cinema, that is the magic of it. So I really like that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
there is something about the sci-fi genre that I have noticed, and I would love to talk to you about that. I have noticed a very strange creative relationship of the sci-fi genre with horror in films
Mhm.
like Alien. बिकॉज
Yeah.
एलियन में ठीक है जो साईफाई एस्पेक्ट है वो तो है ही, बट एलियन हैज़ अ डोमिनेंट लूमिंग हॉरर टू इट.
Or
So
yes.
I wanted to talk to you about this कि this relationship of horror and sci-fi and
Hmm.
like I'm sure क्योंकि एक बार I think हमारी इस पे एक छोटी सी बात हुई थी about Mike Flanagan. So are
हाँ.
you also like a fan of the horror genre, and how do you see this relationship between horror and sci-fi in all the
No.
works that have been done in the past?
Yeah. I used to get very scared watching horror, so I used to not watch. But off late, I've been watching a lot of horror. मतलब बहुत हॉरर देख रही हूँ ना, मैं enjoying it a lot, like, और मैंने काफी वो भी किया है, because I think वही हॉरर भी again है कि it's taking you to places that you haven't seen, and sci-fi horror is a, because sci-fi in general, like, एक thrill element you want on this. जैसे वो Prometheus भी है, it's like a, ठीक है, your spaceship is landing in an unknown planet, but when they're exploring that planet, there's a like so much tension, because you're not as much, I mean, alien is almost like a ghost, like, you're so scared of it, like the unpredictability of it. So I think, yeah, I feel they are related, and together they can make a very amazing genre, like horror sci-fi. Some, I mean, in fact, I do have some horror sci-fi, and I had met this amazing director, horror director called Vishal Furia. So we were discussing that कि यार कुछ अच्छा horror sci-fi बनाते हैं, like we have been trying to crack one thing that we can make together, कि कुछ amazing horror sci-fi, like मजा आ जाए. But yeah, I feel they both take you to places. They're both talking about make believe worlds, making, like, sci-fi can sometimes be positive and all, but काफी sci-fi, especially western sci-fi है, तो वही है कि it is a like doomsday वाला, it goes there.
दुनिया
So
खत्म हो चुकी है.
खत्म हो चुकी है.
Right.
फ्यूचर में तो सब बर्बाद ही होने वाला है, मतलब सारा साइफाई वही पॉइंट करता है. हम सब डूब ही जाएंगे, लाइक, क्या.
Right,
या.
right. And Abhi, this just reminds me, you mentioned about how, you like those steampunk genre vibes of, modern worlds, but with the technologies are थोड़ा सा
या.
पीछे
या फ्लिंटस्टोन
हाँ,
वाइब्स.
Flintstone
हाँ.
vibes. So is
हाँ.
that one of the reasons why you like Mad Max Fury Road?
मे बी.
Okay.
ऑल्सो सब कुछ उन्होंने कैमरा पे किया था, अगेन वो लोग ने सब कुछ. See, all great filmmakers aspire for that, so we should learn from that. Of course, there will be this technology company selling you कि अभी ये हो सकता है, अभी ये हो सकता है. बट यार, जब आप वो डिसिप्लिन भी आता है ना, आप जब सब कुछ कैमरा में ला रहे हो, मतलब नहीं तो पोस्ट में देख लेंगे, तो वो तो सबसे फेवरेट कोट है कि पोस्ट में देख लेंगे. पर जो वो डिसिप्लिन आता है व्हेन यू वांट टू परफेक्ट इट ऑन ऑन स्क्रीन, वो डिसिप्लिन फिर हर एरियाज में सीप इन होगा, मतलब आपकी एक्टिंग में भी आएगा, उसमें भी आएगा. एक्टर्स को भी रियल चीजें मिलती है खेलने के लिए, तो वो सब अमेजिंग लगता है.
Yeah.
बट या, आई थिंक मैड मैक्स तो मुझे बहुत इसलिए भी अच्छी लगी थी कि या इट वाज स्लाइटली, मुझे लगता है कि साइफाई, इफ इट प्रेसेस योर मेमोरी बटन्स, इट फील्स वेरी, it then it touches some part of your heart. It should not be feel cold, like technology, unless your intentional is to make your technology feel cold and the story demands it. If your story doesn't demand it to be cold and alienating, you should make it feel more, people should not fear the technology of your sci-fi film. They should feel like कि अच्छा ये तो मैंने देखा है, ये तो मेरे cassette player जैसे दिख रहा है, things like that. I
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I cannot stop talking about Mad Max Fury Road. It is one of the best
Yes.
films that I've ever seen, and
Yes.
I have a very strange relationship with that film. कि मैं कभी अगर दुखी हो जाता हूँ ना, तो मैं वो फिल्म देखता हूँ, because that film
Yeah.
gives me so much of energy कि यार
Yes.
लाइफ में कुछ करना है. I don't know
करना है.
why that happens, but yeah. Why do
I
you
saw it
think?
in
Yeah.
theaters back to back twice. Back to back twice. Matlab first day,
Wow.
then next day. Twice I went. And I was so excited. I want to take everyone. I love my friends. कि नहीं नहीं चल 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 नहीं नहीं चल चल चल, like that, like, you have
Wow.
to say it's life changing, like वैसे feel आई थी. Even
नहीं
I
नहीं,
love it.
आई एम सो अनलकी कि मैंने उसे थिएटर में नहीं देखा है. द फर्स्ट टाइम
What are you saying?
the
Oh God.
first the first time the first time that I watched the film was on Netflix. Okay, so but then I bought a Blu-ray, and then I was like, "Nahi, let's try to do some justice to it." And तब से I've been just waiting कि Furiosa के time पे they might just re-release the movie
Yeah.
which is a high possibility because that's been happening a lot
Happy.
lately. So I hope ki before the possible Cannes premiere of Furiosa, I get to finally see Mad Max
Yeah.
Fury Road in a theater, and
Yes.
I'll definitely tell you my thoughts कि वो क्या हुआ मेरे
Yes.
साथ.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, मेरे को लगता है मैं ही रेंट करके दिखा दूँ because you really missed it. Like because when I went in, I went in really when it was just released, so not much reviews were out, and I was like, what just hit me? What did I just see? And because I was, I knew that there's this, I think 71-year filmmaker. So I was thinking, पता नहीं अच्छा होगा ये होगा. The trailers were okay. मतलब, I didn't know a desert sci-fi. I wasn't like very sure whether I like it or not. And then I was like, oh my god, what is this? Like, yeah.
yeah, great. Why do you think we are not getting more Aarti Kadavs? Why do you think we are not getting more sci-fi films in India? Is it because, like, of course, there have been some efforts from our South Indian filmmakers, but they did not seem to, win the box office or the hearts of the audiences. So, is it mostly a budget constraint because of the ambitious nature of the projects, or is it the lack of confidence? Because abhi, before starting, you were also mentioning ki there should be a collective conscious effort from India कि this is the kind of cinema that we are making. And I always feel कि हम sci-fi genre में we have a lot that we can do. It doesn't always need big sets, or you just need big concepts, and if you can explore them. क्योंकि अभी नवरसा जब आया था नेटफ्लिक्स पर, तब उसमें कार्तिक नरेन ने एक स्टोरी बनाई थी जिसमें, मतलब मैं तो बहुत ही इनएक्सपीरियंस्ड हूँ, बट मुझे ऐसा लगा कि यार इसमें तो आपने बहुत ही आराम से सब कर दिया, आपने कुछ खर्चा किया ही नहीं है कि आपने सेट बनाया हो, आपने टाइम मशीन बनाया हो. सो आई वुड लव टू नो योर थॉट्स ऑन दिस.
I think it's a leap of faith the platforms and producers have to take with these stories. It's not that I have not been pushing those stories through the system. I have been very vehemently pushing it through the system. But what I've realized that people are too scared and especially when the platforms came in initially, you thought that they will give voice to these new ideas, and they are definitely, it has the stories have become broader, but like they still are in some, they have found a new ballpark in which they want the stories to land. Like of course it was not the same, but वापस वही आ रहा है थोड़े से, they refer to their own past shows. When you will go and talk to them, a platform X will say कि X ये हमारा ये चला था, like they'll refer to their own past work. So something new for them, something like this, it's very tougher for them to take that leap of faith. And I think the, like for the longest time, I did work on developing a sci-fi show for a platform. It didn't take off after a year of work, and that's when I felt like, okay, we have to keep working also, right? But I do still, given a chance, I still push a sci-fi film. In fact, I'm very keen to push a sci-fi film and make one right now, a feature film. And and I felt that now, instead of just blaming them, I'll take that onus on myself to make it more mainstream, make it more, find a way that it overlaps with the mainstream sensibilities. But I don't even know how to do it. Like I cannot go completely, like very different also. थोड़ा सा sci-fi का groundedness भी मुझे रखना है, so अपना voice भी रखना है, so वो सब भी करना है. But yeah, so it is tough, but my experience is that the platforms are not taking that leap of faith. Maybe even if some Nolan comes and pitches Interstellar, I don't know if anybody in India would want to make it. That is the thing, you know. Uh,
Hmm. Okay.
uh, you have to. I also feel that for Interstellar to exist, somebody made Space Odyssey. So so that culture is not there. So we have to start making our own films, little bit independent, push it. Try to make it more mainstream. It's a matter of one mainstream sci-fi to be hit for everyone to actually start giving that chance. So I have to also push myself to reach that level where I give a mainstream sci-fi, which kind of makes people take notice of the genre. So
Yeah.
I have now taken the onus on myself instead of saying कि अरे यार कोई green light नहीं कर रहा, like
Right.
so that is also there.
Because
Yeah.
this is just what you mentioned ki sci-fi is one of the very strong ways which I also believe that can actually transcend the boundaries of imagination. It can
Yeah.
really take Indian cinema to a next level. And what you just mentioned before our chat ki collectively try to bring something which represents India. अभी भी जो represent कर रहा है वो बहुत अच्छा है,
हाँ.
but there is always room for improvement and there is
Yes.
always something जो हम better कर सकते हैं.
Mm-hmm.
How did an engineer from IIT Kanpur get into the world of filmmaking? I know ये आपसे बहुत बार पूछा गया है, but मैं इसलिए जानना चाहता हूँ because I feel that of it takes some effort to explain to your parents what exactly it is to enter into the world of
Yeah.
storytelling. So
Yeah.
did you face any obstacles, एनी ऑब्जेक्शंस कि बेटा आप माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की जॉब छोड़कर आप कह रहे हो कि यार मैं विस्लिंग वुड्स जैसे किसी जगह पे जाना चाहती हूँ,
Mm.
मैं वहाँ पे फिल्म मेकिंग पढ़ूंगी एंड आई वांट टू बिकम अ फिल्म मेकर. सो व्हाट वाज दैट ट्रांजिशन फॉर यू लाइक?
No, I faced a lot of obstacle. So my mother has since childhood been a very big believer of me. So she always supports me even if I'll say कि मैं वो murder करने जा she says हाँ हाँ जाओ जाओ. So she has this no sense of supporting me. So, and the contrast is my father, who is a very simple middle class man who knows the realities of this world and who understands that he would say that you worked very hard to get that job. Just because you got it, you think it's easy, but I know a lot of people who still would try and wouldn't get their job, and you're giving it up. You know that it's a one way street. You give up, you're out of the circulation, they will not take you back. So he was absolutely against me leaving my job. In fact, he sent he has an email saved which he made me send him. He said ki, this is my decision, and my father he's told me, say right, that my father advised against me, but I have taken this decision, so now I'm solely responsible for it, and I'll not blame him for it. So I sent him in that email also, like,
वो ईमेल था कि एफिडेविट था?
almost like कि कल he said कि tomorrow if you have any regret, you cannot blame me that I didn't guide you right. I have guided you, and I've given you very clear thing, because the real world is very tough. The whole movie industry, it looks, you only see people who have made it and who are making the films. You have not seen, like, just by proportion, lot of people will have to lot of struggle, and you will have lot of struggles too, which he was right, because I did have lot of struggle. I had to really bootstrap a lot of my projects, and all of them took lot of courage to. Every time you make a short film, you don't make money, but then to start the next short film, it does take a lot of courage, a lot of push from within to do that. And even now it's not that ki ocha matlab you know this is there, so it's a tougher thing, but I still feel that the way this thing makes me alive is only the reason I can push myself. Like, अगर मुझे सॉफ्टवेयर में कोई पैसे नहीं दे, मैं एक दिन का कोडिंग नहीं करूँ, मतलब यहाँ पे हम 10 साल से काम कर रहे हैं, like, so वैसा है, like, so you also want to choose what can bring your passion, because I feel that if you work hard and if you work right over a period of time, you will survive in any industry, like, because the industry also, even if it is you call it 100 things, but even then that industry needs hardworking sincere people to service them, like, so you have to be very sincere and honest with your work, which we will be, because we know what all we left to be here, and we know what is all at stake. So that's there. But yeah, my initially my father was very unsure, and like beach me also, like when I was not making, you know just making short films, and so he was like, "Ki, if you want reapply for the job, it's just been 3 years, you have always been topper." So he also says that you really worked hard to be where you were there, like that also. See, for Microsoft looks like a easy thing, for
No.
me that was also a dream from a very small, Nagpur, this thing, that also, like, like first time I sat in the plane was when I was going to Seattle for my, taking up my job. Like, we navigated that, I remember, and I'd be like, and तभी तो कि ये अरे अभी खाने को मिल रहा है, अरे so we were like that, like अरे कार मिल रही है, like, we were, so that also was a huge thing, and just to then feel that okay, ये सब एनामर करता है, पर ये सब नहीं चाहिए लाइफ में हमको, तो कुछ और बनना है, तो वो विजडम भी हो सकता है, वो स्टुपिडिटी भी हो सकती है, पागलपन भी हो सकता है. Even you don't know, right? We are also all very young when you are taking those huge decisions of about your life.
Right.
So you feel that, but now I feel that it's okay. Now I feel I'm happy I made this choice, because मैं वो उसमें ना एक जगह पे रुक जाती सॉफ्टवेयर में, मतलब खाना वाना सब रहता, घर रहता, गाड़ी रहता, वो सब रहता, पर मेंटली मैं इतनी ही रहती. अभी आई फील दैट I'm also a better person emotionally. I'm a better person uh, to people I'm with. As such, I've grown because if you're a filmmaker, you actually also become very good observer of human emotions and all that. And I feel that the richness the craft has brought in my life is like unparalleled. That is also richness na? Matlab, why always materialistic? And
Yeah.
now we can get by. Now we have all after I think वरुण ने बोला था, वरुण ग्रोवर ने, कि 10 साल लगते हैं काम स्टार्ट करने में, फिर और 10 साल लगेंगे फेमस होने में लाइक so you have to put in your years, and I hope it gets lesser because when we graduated from film school there was no OTT, nothing. So ऐसा भी हो सकता था कि आपको पैसे ही नहीं मिल रहे हैं. अभी ऐसा है कि आपको कमाना है तो आप कुछ ना कुछ करके कमा सकते हो, लाइक ऐसा नहीं होगा कि. बट हाँ, हम लोग भी, वो हम लोग लकी थे कि हम लोग फिर अपनी वॉइस पुश बहुत कर पा रहे थे उस समय. अभी है ना, वो बहुत ईजी हो जाएगा कुछ जॉब मिलना, तो फिर कोई अगर किसी को साईफाई बनाना है, सो ही विल फील लाइक कि नहीं यार चलना, ये इसमें इतना पैसे मिल रहा है तो ये कर लेते हैं, लाइक वो भी हो सकता है. तो इट्स कॉम्प्लिकेटेड.
Yeah.
या.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I
या.
personally relate to it a lot. Because that transition has not been easy for me as well. Which is like, मैं अभी कोई filmmaker नहीं हूँ, कुछ नहीं हूँ, but ये सब करने के लिए भी I have I have had to
यू
convince
आर अ
my
फिल्म मेकर. पता है, ये है ना, हम लोग
uh,
बैकवर्ड फुटिंग में हमेशा रहते हैं कि हम खुद को फिल्म
अच्छा.
मेकर बोलने से इतनी बार शर्माते हैं. जस्ट से इट, यूर फिल्म मेकर. मतलब मैं तो अभी मैं एयरपोर्ट में कभी इमिग्रेशन में पूछते थे ना क्या करते हो, तो कार्गो बनाने के बाद भी बोलने में शर्म आ रही थी कि फिल्म मेकर है. लाइक सी, हाँ मैं तो ऐसे ही, हम तो ऐसे ही अनएम्प्लॉयड, लाइक ऐसे बोलते हैं, लाइक तो वो रहता है. या.
ठीक है, मैं फिल्म मेकर हूँ, बट
हाँ.
बट या, आई completely resonate with how long can it take to actually convince your folks and your other family members. So what are some of the best learning resources, apart from, of course, being in film school? What are some of the learning resources, what are some of the some of the learning resources that has helped you and can help other budding filmmakers as well?
There was a time when I was like literally I used to see a lot of master classes of good filmmakers, and even sometimes the Oscar time maybe there's this round table happens of top filmmakers and all. Sometimes that helps because it also gives you a lot of energy. I don't know how much of that you will retain, but that day and that week becomes sorted. Like, you feel like, because as you said, you will be working as a filmmaker so much in isolation. If nobody around you gets what you think or what you want to discuss, to just be part of that conversation, even if you're just listening, feels amazing. I used to also do free courses on philosophy, and I had done one very nice course in city design on Coursera, which had how his cities came to be designed from this. तो वो सब भी मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता था because I want to do sci-fi and all that. So वो सब I quite like. I also read a lot of screenplays. Like if you see वो जो Black Spider-Man का screenplay, so ना best written screenplays. How it flows. Like you will not realize, you'll start reading it, you're already on page 30. मतलब इतना fast flow होता है. So it helps you write your screenplay better, which I realized over time that people really judge you not just based on the content of the story, but how your screenplay reads and how easy it is for them to read it. Like, so those things I would those are the top three resources, and I keep going back to these things, like keep trying to learn new things. Like sometimes when I'm really having a writer's block, I will just probably these days, so I also love Greta Gerwig. So there was a time, like I think last week, last month or so, I was watching all her interviews and how she approached Barbie, because how it became what it became, like in terms of from just like a Barbie doll story, how she transcended that and made it about something more, and convinced Mattel and all for that. So that feels also nice just to learn from them and how they are holding on to their conviction. So you also feel that I'll also hold on to my conviction when my turn comes to make films. So
Yeah.
those things like that, yeah.
Great, great. And you have mentioned this elaborately during your TED talk as well, that you have been you have always been a learner. It's not just about filmmaking, but you have tried to explore as many subjects as you can. You have not just limited your curiosity to just one thing. You have always been like a person who is always noticing, because noticing is the first step to curiosity.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask if what is the most alien field, no pun intended, but what is the most alien field or subject that you have explored and it has like literally blown your mind? Like for example, I love reading about Egyptian cities, the kind of engineering that they have done in those years, those periods, it's mind boggling. So do you have something of that sort that you just explored, or you something that is that you keep exploring more?
No, for me that city design course was very eye opening. Like usme there was a very nice thing also I read. Like there was a guy who proposed that people should live on top of each other in these buildings, and everybody laughed at him. And then he went and became the architecture professor in Harvard, and all the students who came out of there started making this. So I was like, how, and how some city designs which were like sci-fi style, जिसमें people are just, there was one sci-fi design where people are only living around, staircase or something like that became the design for mall. So मुझे वो बहुत सही लग रहा था overall, just exploring how people live and how people live changes the way community interacts and how everything. So mujhe like that course, that's why I mentioned that that course was like, I never thought that city design would inform me about people's psychology, about the way this world works in a way that something I wouldn't guess about that. So yeah, wo ek tha. And off the cuff, yeah, yeah, that's
Anything
it.
that you have recently found out, anything that like any piece of information or trivia or any subject that you found out recently and you like कि भाई क्या है ये?
No, but I actually became very interested in the sci-fi evolution of sci-fi vocabulary and sci-fi designs in West, and I got into this rabbit hole, and not very recently, but like in last few years, where I'm like really seeing all this, जो so called B grade sci-fi magazines के जो illustrators है उनका work, and how they have become like so mainstream. Like even but of course Mobius was not B grade, Mobius was very A grade, but like Mobius ka work and this, and how they see to give visual to your imagination is something amazing. And when we are like when I saw this ये कौन सा फिल्म है जिसमें आए वो क्रिस प्रैट है, गार्डियंस ऑफ द गैलेक्सी. सो व्हेन
Okay,
आई सॉ द गार्डियंस ऑफ द गैलेक्सी का ही डिजाइन, तो मुझे लग रहा था कि इट वाज एन अमालगमेशन ऑफ what I was understanding about how you will design different spaces, but also the colorfulness of these graphic designers. So throwback to that also. So I was very excited about that, like, because you also feel that when you want to design something that's new but also something that's familiar, and how do you find that right balance? So
right.
I was feeling, yeah, very excited about that. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. uh Woody Allen is, I'm guessing, one of your favorite filmmakers from what I've heard,
Yes.
and मतलब I
Yes.
hope कि मेरी research ठीक है. So uh if someone wants to start watching Woody Allen films, what should be the first thing that he should watch, he that person should watch?
नो उसका शुरू से ही देखो, क्योंकि वो
Okay.
बंदा बहुत अमेजिंग है, लाइक या सो शुरू से उसकी जो फर्स्ट फिल्म थी ना, जिसमें ही टॉक्स टू द कैमरा, व्हाट इज दैट फिल्म, आई फॉरगेट.
Okay, so confession, I haven't watched even a single Woody Allen film, so I guess I'm asking for myself. But
नो
yeah,
नो आई टेल यू, एनी हॉल से शुरू करो. वही द फर्स्ट फिल्म उसकी एनी हॉल जो है ना, स्टार्ट
okay,
विथ एनी हॉल, बिकॉज एनी हॉल मुझे उसकी सबसे प्योरेस्ट और बेस्ट लगी थी. उसके बाद वो एनी हॉल के ही बॉल पार्क में उन्होंने फिल्म बनाई, यू विल लाइक लॉट ऑफ दिस. और फिर वो मिडनाइट इन पेरिस भी मुझे अच्छी लगती है. सो बट एनी हॉल मुझे लगता है इट्स लाइक दिस अमंग ऑल हिज फिल्म्स, लाइक लॉट ऑफ हिज फिल्म्स हैज लॉट ऑफ डेप्थ एंड ऑल. एंड like the way he goes into the details of human experience बहुत अमेजिंग है. बट एनी हॉल मुझे स्ट्रक्चरली भी बहुत अच्छी लगी थी, और वो जो कॉम्प्लेक्सेस, oh you have to see Annie Hall, just drop everything, download and watch Annie Hall today. मतलब it's just that because वो जो होती ना perfect announcing film for your personality, because he made a lot of films but he never outdid. And I personally feel, I'm sure someone else will disagree, people, there are people who love Manhattan and other films a lot, even Midnight in Paris, a lot of his films are very nice. But for me Annie Hall is like here, like आप उसी से शुरू करो. Yeah. Yeah.
great, great. I'll do that. Thank you so much for the recommendation. As someone who is in the field of creation, for the lack of better word. You are in the field of creation. So, and you also work in the business of creativity. So, uh, this is something that I've also noticed ki, that if there are 95 good comments, but there are 5 bad comments, we kind of tend to gravitate more towards those 5 bad comments. So, how do you deal with those 5 bad comments?
I just I feel very bad. I go into some sort of depression only when I hear bad comments. I try to act like I'm not immune to bad comments because I work very hard and like it just takes so much for me to make my films, and then um yeah, when there's a massive dismissal for your work, I feel very bad, like, and now I can't help it, like, I realize that it's just part of the game. I think for the longest time I made short films जो मैं अपने फ्रेंड्स एंड रिलेटिव्स को दिखाती थी तो मुझे नेगेटिव कमेंट्स कोई देता ही नहीं था. Now that the work is out there, I do get this. uh, it takes me a while to distill it and find out what really was I can be better in. Initially I feel very hard because of the harshness of it, because an internet is a place where people are genuinely very harsh with something they don't like and all that. And you know for me Cargo was that, where it was made like a festival film. It was that, and it did really well outside India, and I in fact got you know big studios from Hollywood contacting me. I never got even a single phone call from any Indian studio or anyone like and I didn't translate to the success in domestic way, like the way I had expected, seeing how it was received outside, like and there was a very niche audience for it which really who liked it. But I completely ignored that set of people who liked it, and I was so much focused on people who were like, मुझे किसी ने दूसरे फिल्म के लिए बुलाया ही नहीं, किसी को साइफाई फिल्म बनानी नहीं. So I was very much this but I think over a period, that because it happened for the first time, I think you always are shaken. With time, you're like, कि, चलो छोड़ो कुछ नहीं होता. Like we have to be at it. Nobody knows your reality, यार. मतलब when you're making your film, the things you're dealing with, and not that they need to know. They should judge you by the film you have made and all that. But it's okay. Like yeah. So
Okay, I understand. Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Uh, as Sorry, just a second. So I believe we cannot approach towards the end of the conversation before talking about, like a list of sci-fi films that you would like to recommend anyone to start with.
Yeah.
And not just starting, but I believe there are a lot of people who watch sci-fi films, but then if you had to literally cherry pick some of the
Yeah.
best titles that have given
Yeah.
you the best experience, so
Yeah.
how I would love to know your choices.
No, I would give you a variety. I'll give you a buffet, so that and these are the films that have like sort of influenced me. I think one we have spoken about also, 2001 Space Odyssey. You do that. You have to see Matrix. You have to see Jurassic Park, which by the way is the best sci-fi film with the best origin story. Like वो अभी तक मुझे लगता है कि मस्कीटो के खून से बन सकता है डायनासोर, मतलब it's like the best. बट ऑल्सो मुझे वो ओरिजिनल प्लानट ऑफ द एप्स मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगती है. वो जो वो है एंड देन you go deep. So these are mainstreams, like Steven Spielberg is, but go little bit थोड़ा सा साइड में, एंड साइड में मुझे ना मिशेल कॉन्ट्री की इटर्नल सनशाइन बहुत अच्छी लगती है. दैट्स अ लो फाई साई-फाई जो हम लोग जो बेचारे जिनके पास ज्यादा पैसे, so how do you enjoy sci-fi, be coherent to your story, and still you know uh, still make a very effective sci-fi that can really touch your heart.
Right.
And then for me Jack Sati, I'll come to him later, but uh, टेरी गिलियम और मिशेल कॉन्ट्री, मुझे लगता है वो दोनों सेम बॉल पार्क में है, क्योंकि वो लोग बहुत इंजॉय करते हैं अपना साईफाई जो, और उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता. इफ यू हैव टू वॉच 12 मंकीज फॉर दैट, जिसमें टाइम ट्रेवल कर रहा है, बस स्पेस सूट के में प्लास्टिक की रैप किया है ब्रूस विलिस ने. एंड दैट इज सो इम्पोर्टेंट दैट यू डोंट हैव, if you get some if you get the correct elements right, you can make your sci-fi film without a huge production design. And you can be little mental, and you can be little, I like that Terry Gilliam is mental about his sci-fi. वो कुछ ऐसे you know एक madness में descent करता है, which is so beautiful and which is so refreshing to see. So you can watch that. या एंड आई थिंक जैकिस ताती के जो फिल्म्स है, मोन अंकल वगैरह, वो भी थोड़े इंटरेस्टिंग लगते हैं, बिकॉज वो जो वर्ल्ड का है ना, जो वो मतलब वो भी एक अलग तरीके से टू मेक यू नो हाउ यू मेक योर सिटीज एंड ऑल दैट, लाइक वो भी मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है. एंड या आई थिंक इनफ. और
Okay.
और बहुत है पर मेरे को ध्यान नहीं आ रहा.
ब्राज़ील आई थिंक शायद हम ऐड कर
ब्राजील,
सकते
हाँ ब्राजील, हाँ ब्राजील तो बहुत अच्छी है, वो भी अगेन टेरी गिलियम इज लाइक आई लाइक इट.
हैं.
या.
Right. Great, great.
या.
What I wanted to ask is that, and this is something that I think I'm probably going to ask every director जिनसे मुझे चांस मिले बात करने का. I have always, like, not just me, but all of us have always heard this, that, actors, the people who are behind, sorry, in front of the camera, they have to be फिजिकली फिट, दे हैव टू लुक अ सर्टन वे, जिसके लिए वो बहुत सारी प्रेप करते हैं. कूडोज टू दैट एंड एवरीथिंग. बट आई ऑलवेज फील कि जस्ट लाइक द एक्टर्स, the director also needs a certain level of uh, physical strength, for the lack of better word. The
Hmm.
director also needs to have a good mental space. जैसे हम हमेशा एक्टर्स के लिए इंश्योर करते हैं कि उनको अच्छी डाइट मिले, अच्छी वर्कआउट मिले, क्योंकि उनको बॉडी दिखानी है, मतलब जो भी उनको रोल प्ले करना है उसके लिए दे हैव टू लुक अ सर्टन वे एंड दे हैव टू फील अ सर्टन वे. बट आई ऑल्सो फील दैट ultimately the guy, the person who is behind the camera, who is the captain of the ship, the director, someone like you, that person also needs a certain level of physical and mental stability. So in your personal life, how do you take care of these aspects as a director?
I think one superpower I have found, and which is a very big solution for a lot of my problems, is I wake up 2 3 hours before everyone else. I wake up like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Shoot days I'm always waking up at 4 a.m. Like other days pre-prod I'm 5 a.m. because before I meet the people, I've already had a calm few hours where I've thought about the things that I'm going to discuss with everyone. And I've also found that few hours to myself. So that I feel is like, and it can work other ways also. You can be a person who's doing that late at night. You don't have to necessarily be an early riser. For me, it really works because मेरे early में मेरा ऐसा दिमाग ऐसे फास्ट दौड़ता है, लाइक सुबह जब मैं खा कोई उठा नहीं रहता तो मतलब वो मुझे अच्छा लगता है. और मुझे वो प्रेप मुझे बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस देता है, और मुझे वो मुझे मे बी वो प्रेप अच्छा हो बुरा वो अलग बात है. साइकोलॉजिकली मैं बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट रहती हूँ जब जब मैं वो प्रेप करती हूँ, तो सो वो मुझे वो बहुत हेल्प करता है. एंड द अदर थिंग दैट आई रियली डू इज लाइक, if you talk about fitness, I do yoga, matlab मैं yoga and all that I do. And I think which I've learned over a period of time is that, like, you will have a lot of challenges when you're making a film. It's not a easy exercise. You will meet 100 kinds of people. There will always be this 20% of people who will be occupying 80% of your mind because they'll be like troublemakers or whatever. But you have to also realize that, when, especially your age, when I was also younger, that was my whole world. Like when I'm making that film, that's my whole world. I think for me, I was rescued by my dog 14 years ago when I realized that no, you have to find other things that is your whole world. And like, this is your thing, and you have to find a way to not let someone being complete as with you on the set affect you mentally. In fact, you should find the energy from your personal this thing to actually handle their irregularities. So वो मैंने realize किया. So when you go with that centeredness कि यार ये कुछ भी होगा, like it's not, there's a beautiful world you are trying to create for yourself, they will not puncture that. And and maybe you can enrich whatever, because it's when you are extended, you have an extended shoot. For I'll tell you, any shoot first 21 days everybody is nice. It's only after 21 days when all the things come out, and you have to have the energy to navigate that. That's when you're tested. First 21 days तो कुछ test नहीं होते आप. लोग बोलते हैं फर्स्ट डे टेंशन है, फर्स्ट डे तो सभी एकदम हनीमून फेज है, लाइक यू नो फर्स्ट डे तो कुछ टेंशन नहीं होता, इट्स लाइक व्हेन यू आर लाइक फीलिंग रिसोर्सेज कम है, ये कम है, इस ये अरे एक एक्सीडेंट हो गया, 2 दिन का शूट कम हो गया, या कोई किसी बात पे इरिटेट हो गया। मेरे इसमें शूट में ऐसा हो गया था, देयर वाज अ कंजक्टिवाइटिस, सो हाफ ऑफ द टीम इज गॉन, लाइक like while we were shooting for 4 days, because it takes that many days for it to recover. So you're dealing with like those people are getting irritable with all this. And at that time, how you your strength of character really helps your team. That time you have to really give, like, to your team, and that you have to realize. And people will be rude to you, but you have to not take it to the heart, and you have to find your devices. Like as I said, for me it was my dog, like theek hai ya kuch bhi, like your family or whatever, or you can have your very close friend or someone who is there, who is like holding you when you're dealing with that. So तुझे पता है कि ये this person is giving you trouble, but it's okay, it's not a judgment on you, that's it, like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because I've always felt कि मतलब director भी इंसान है, at
yeah,
the grass root level, right? And
yes,
like you just mentioned, it's a huge thing to execute, चाहे आप short film बना रहे हो, चाहे आप feature film
yeah,
बना रहे हो, आप documentary बना रहे हो. So as a on a human level, I always wonder कि how is a director dealing with everything. So
yeah,
this is something I wanted to know from you. Thank you.
yeah.
And my last question is, what is the change that you wish to see, which will actually help us to transcend the boundaries of cinema? And this change can come from the audience as well, from the makers as well. I just want to know, what do you feel about it?
No, I think that overall the system, including audience and the producers or people in power and people who are also aspiring to make films, have to find, like, strong voices and give chance to those strong voices in a way that they can make a good film. And I'm sure, I really believe that you don't have to be a very big genius to make a good film. You just, even if an average guy working very hard with sincerity and given the space to make a good film will make a great film. Like, you just have to let that person stay uncorrupted and you have that confidence, and I think that's what it is, like, because I just recently saw Portrait, and I was like, Richie Mehta came out of nowhere. Like, he had just made India in a Day, a small documentary. From there he made something like Delhi Crimes, and then he's like really exploring things he believes in, is made a something like Portrait. And he had to find a way to isolate himself from the system, make it independently, and then sell it. And I wish the system supports filmmakers where he doesn't have to, like, and I'm glad he could find funders like that. But I'm sure more people should be able to find, ways to do that. I think the more diverse, more honest voices, the more amazing our film industry will be. And we have to find a way to respect that and give space to that. uh, right now what is happening is, in like, there are like five people in every uh, major platform, and they are taking all the decisions, but they are not sufficient. They cannot take decisions for, like, what all of us are watching. We have to, sometimes they have to make space for just, I feel that creative, when you're being a creative person, it's not just about correcting someone's script. It's also about, you know, letting a voice be, like, and that they have to realize that, just let the voice be, give them faith, let them make the best film they want to make. So
Absolutely.
yeah.